Heaven's Field Part 1 has undeniably proven to the world that it can stand on its own 2 feet. However, due to all of its content and them only having so much time, it's only natural that some of the scenes had to be cut, changed, and rearranged in the process. Today we're going to talk about some of those same scenes. Now, keeping that in mind, some of the information that was cut from the film may have been moved to the second movie. So if you don't want to get spoiled, I highly advise that you back out the video. Like, right now. Alright, so, for our first scene, we have Saber versus Medusa. Originally, this was a scene that was supposed to take place at the park, but in the movie, you'll see that it takes us to a back alley. And the woman that Medusa was feeding on was supposed to be unidentified, but in the movie, it is none other than the captain of the archery club, Ayako Mitsuzuri. This was meant to be a callback to Unlimited Blade Works. Going back to the UB-Dub route, Ayako was said to have been attacked around this same period of time. But when Shiro tried to confront Shinji about this situation, he claimed that he had nothing to do with it. Fast forward to Heaven's Field, and we have Shiro literally catching this man in the act. Put your hands where I can see him. Medusa gets bodied by Saber, Shinji starts to freak out, and then the novel reveals to us that this thing is Shinji's grandfather, Mato Zoken. He talks about how their family line had to change their original name, how the Matos were once allied with the Tosakas. He even goes into detail about how Shinji was born without magic circuits and how he never really had potential to be a magus from the start. He thought that by letting Shinji have Rider, he would finally prove himself as a worthy successor. But he couldn't even do that right. Straight trash until the very end. He then tells Shinji that he's useless just like his father, and you kind of start to understand why Shinji is always trying to validate himself through battle. Then you have Zoken tell Shiro to his face that even though Sakura comes from this screwed up family, she has absolutely nothing to do with this. Obviously he's lying, but of course this is something that will come to reveal itself later on down the line. When it comes to the movie, none of these things get explored. In fact, Zoken kinda just shows up and leaves. Next we have the birth of true assassin. So in the movie we are taken to Sasaki Kojiro, who is posted up chilling in front of Ryodo Temple. All of a sudden, blood starts pouring out from his mouth, assassin pops out of his chest, makes his way over the wall, and then he dips. One of the things that was different to me was the emphasis. In the novel, the scene came off as something that was a lot more gruesome and traumatic, rather than assassin just popping out of his chest and leaving. It starts off with the blood pouring out of Sasaki's mouth like normal, but then it has assassin slowly carve his way out of Sasaki's body, with his left arm being the first thing that we see. On top of that, assassin wasn't supposed to just leave the scene either. Due to the way he was summoned, he came into the war with a limited amount of intelligence. The novel has assassin remain at the scene and devour Sasaki's body, bones and all, to gain more human knowledge. He was supposed to be more like an insect, barely being able to speak at first, then slowly working his way to normal conversation when we see him with Zoken. But in the movie, the shadow just comes in and consumes what's left of Sasaki's body. Next we have assassin versus Cuchulainn. In the movie, you have them meeting on the balcony. Then you have them fighting down the street, on the back of the truck. How does he not know that they're on the back of the truck? You have them clashing on the rooftops. And then finally, they arrive at Ryodo Lake. None of these things happen in the novel. This is something that they added strictly to the movie, and it's without a doubt one of the best liberties that I've seen in the adaptation. Originally, the fight started out with Ku pulling up to Ryodo Temple, Assassin tries to fire off some of his daggers, but we soon find out that Ku is able to easily avoid them due to his skill protection from arrows. He then lures Ku over to Riedo Lake, where he gets attacked by the shadow. Ku tries to leap away with his lance, and while he's mid-air, Assassin uses his phantasm and takes away his heart. Ku falls back into the water and he gets taken by the shadow. In the movie, it was a bit different and a bit more accurate in terms of how Assassin's phantasm is supposed to play out. Instead of taking Ku's heart while he's in the air, he places a curse on the location where his heart is supposed to be. The movie even gives Ku an extra chance to defend himself by initiating Gaebold, but it's too late. The curse has already taken effect. Assassin crushes the fake heart and eats the real one like it's a 5-star entree. And to add on, him eating the heart was again something that never took place in the novel. And I think this might be the reason why they skipped the scene where he was supposed to eat Sasuke's body. Because if you do the same thing over and over again, it starts to lose its flair and then it becomes redundant. So instead of eating Sasuke's body, I think they made him eat the heart to showcase him still gaining that knowledge, but also giving more impact to the battle. For the last scene, we have Zoken's mortality. In the novel, it starts the scene off with a woman parting ways with some of her friends. She then starts to make her way to her next destination. In the movie, this destination is yet again another alley. I see that y'all really like alleys. Here, we come across her blood-covered purse, we see Zoken's body malfunction a little bit, and we see Assassin bowing to Zoken as if to pledge his loyalty. Then he tells Zoken that his perseverance is what makes him a master worth serving. That's it. That's all. Now, in the same scene, the setting for the novel is completely different. This time, instead of making her way to the alley, she makes her way to the same field where the Fourth Grail War ended. It is also implied that she's being led there by the use of Zoken's worm magic. She walks into the middle of the field, and all of these worms start pouring out of nowhere. They come out the ground. They come out the trees. One of them lands directly on her face, and it goes inside of her eye with a mouth bigger than her eye socket. Then you have the worms on the ground feast on her heel, which makes her lose balance and fall to the ground. And while she's there, the worms go inside that same heel and eat her alive from the inside and out. They feasted on her body for 5 minutes, and once the meal was over, her body morphed into Zoken. Skipped all of this and replaced it with, your perseverance is what makes you a master worth serving. And this was meant to detail how Zoken has been able to remain in the world for over 500 years. Basically, he has a form of limited immortality. As long as he can find a new host, he can use their body as the base and use his worms to replicate the new organs. Putting it bluntly, he's been keeping his soul alive and finding a new host for his body every 50 years. However, as of the Fifth Grail War, Zoken is forced to go through this process every few months, which means that his soul itself is now starting to fade away. And these are just a few changes. Of course, there are more, but I'm going to spread these out so we can go into more detail on each one instead of me kind of just naming the scenes off. Let me know what you guys think. Was the movie faithful enough for your standards, or are you concerned about how the other two films are gonna play out? I personally feel like they did a good job, especially when you consider the amount of content and what's really necessary in terms of keeping things coherent. If you enjoyed the video, throw me a like, throw me a sub, hit the bell, and I will be back with more Type Moon content. It's your boy Tsiah. I'm out.